p.m. To kick us off, will Mr. Joseph Patrick lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I made a roll call reflect that all governing board members and all members of cabinet are present tonight. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting and remind the audience of our request to address board cards that must be completed and submitted to the board secretary if they wish to speak to an agenda item. Board policy calls for 2 cards. White cards to be submitted in order to speak to a specific agenda item, and blue cards to be submitted in order to speak during public comments. Our policy states there is a 5-minute maximum time limit per speaker. Due to open meeting law, board members are not allowed to address items that are not on the agenda. If you do not want to address the board but wish to give your comments in writing, you can do so on the goldenrod sheet, and all board members will receive copies. May I have an approval of agenda?
The governing board approved the agenda presented.
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Public comments. Hilda, are there any cards?
No.
Thank you. Superintendent report.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and our community. I have 5 things tonight. I'm going to be as brief as I can. I want to first share with you a letter written by the Arizona School Administrators. This is the superintendents, principals, services, so forth organization, and it is to Governor Ducey. It says, educators working in school districts and communities all across Arizona are encouraged to be renewed by the renewed attention to the underfunding of K-12 public education. The time has come for our state to recommit to the young people in our public schools. As much as we appreciate the proposals by the governor, legislative leadership, Democratic caucus, and the superintendent of public instruction to provide funds for K-12 education, these efforts cannot be in place of funding the voter-approved inflation formula. The formula provides the foundation for funding K-12 public education for current and future students. This formula was approved by the voters in 2000 and has withstood a legislative challenge in the courts. This money is owed to the students of Arizona, and the legislature needs to comply with the court order to reset funding levels to Arizona school districts to make up for over $330 million being shortchanged in this year alone. Funds are available. There is no need to take monies from our youngest learners, college students, or first responders in order to comply with this court's direction. It is imperative that solutions to the problem of funding education for the students of Arizona be long-term and provide adequately for all of our students. The outpouring of support from the public for solving the funding issue of public education in Arizona also makes it imperative that the outcomes be sustainable. The voter-approved inflation formula provides some assurance of funding, not only for students in our classroom today, but for future students. This positive public reaction demonstrates overwhelming support for a comprehensive solution for funding K-12 education in Arizona. The first step in the solution is to pay, as the courts have ruled, the voter-approved inflation formula. The time is now to settle the lawsuit. Once done, other funding sources must be identified in order to ensure that we provide our students in Arizona with an education that prepares them to be competitive in the world. Signed, the ASA leadership team. I thought you would appreciate that because I know we're all struggling with, and it's always good when organizations come out very publicly and vehemently. The governor is having a first things first meeting Thursday. Is it in Prescott? In Prescott. So there is an open call to the public there if anybody should be interested in attending that meeting. My second item actually relates to the Creighton community because we have received, I would say, enough phone calls of surprise about the taxes that have come into the mail recently. And it's fair that we say, you know, we want to help, one, thank the voters for voting for the override. And we want to thank the voters so that they know what that money is going towards. But I think in the escalation of assessed values of homes, in that the legislature shifted from the business community's responsibility to the tax burden to the resident's responsibility to the tax burden. We need to help our homeowners understand that. And then they have the compound of overrides and then the selling of the bonds. So we are in a bit of a triple hit as a homeowner here, and it feels a little owie right now. And I think that one of the things we're working on is to help our neighborhood see the investment in the way it's affecting the assessed values of their homes by having a strong and powerful school district that they can be proud of. I know Mrs. Young has witnessed some things going on in the neighborhood that I hope you'll just chime in.
have a question.
We can't because this is reports.
Right.
Just sharing the reports, knowing you know some things you're thinking about for the homeowners around here, and wanted you to know we were working on a communication with the homeowners that I'd like you all to be a part of as we continue to craft an explanation and support for our homeowners. Sorry, we can't.
What kind of communication? Can you elaborate at all?
I can put something in a board update for you and have you review to it.
Okay, thank you.
My third quick item is the Arizona merit results have been sent to us. We're just beginning to peel the layers of the onions about what the meaning of these new results mean, and the results are embargoed through November. So we'll have a report for you in the 1st of December. This is contrary to the state's commitment of fast and expedient turnaround for a test that was administered in April, to wait until December to be able to discuss the results. So it feels a little bit like an autopsy report and not like something we can do something live with, but we are looking closely at our Arizona merit results. We also had a community council meeting just a week or so ago, and we had 125 people show up, many of whom were Spanish speaking, which we used our headsets, and we had a wonderful fluent conversation about the goals of the district and the superintendent. Just an outstanding turnout. I would say probably of the 125 people in the room, 30 were parents, and it was just an excellent turnout. Our principals did a great job facilitating many questions surrounding the district goals, and we look forward to a strategic planning town hall coming up to follow up on the strategic planning goals. And my last comment for the evening is we've had the good blessing of having for 74 days the assistance of an interim director for finance, Ms. Kathy Elliott, and tonight she's still, oh, I thought you were coughing over there.
Sorry.
No. She's agreed to stay all the way through the board presentation through October. She was going to end in September, so she could help deliver kind of what we call the heavy lifting of the AFR, the Arizona Financial Report. So I would like to thank Kathy for her 73 days of service. Okay, thank you. And that's my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Let's move to governing board reports.
On October, the Phoenix Homestead neighborhood, which is encompassing where you're sitting, in fact, this is the old washroom. We have 3 big events during the year. Anyway, first one of the year is coming up. It's called Breakfast in the Park. It's going to be October 24th. And after it, they're adding an arts and crafts fair. There will be representation. I know Dr. Lewis has a prior engagement, but Dr. Peterson and Jay Mann are coming to represent the school district. Hopefully, the principal of LCK has been invited, and with Dr. Lewis's help, she's trying to get the art teacher to get student representation at the Arts and Crafts Fair afterwards. It'll start, it's in the park right over there, and it'll start around 10:30 on the 24th is the Arts and Crafts Fair. And hopefully since don't know, 3-4 years ago. The board was very, very much in getting neighborhood schools and having them involved. Hopefully we'll get the children here, or at least the art teacher to project their wares, because LCK is the neighborhood school for this area. Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to piggyback on that. October 24th is Bar in the Park, and my mother and I will have a table for as artists set up. So, yeah, thank you. Creighton School, another Creighton School Board member will be there.
I'll probably be doing
I just want to let everybody know that I did find a job. I was hired at Isaac Middle School to teach their life skills class. So it's really, for me, it feels like coming full circle, because I'll be working directly with Vic Diaz, who is one of my mentors, and he's written the curriculum there, and it's outstanding. So tomorrow I'm going to meet with him, and we're going to line our curriculum together and really, you know, focusing on some of the things he's trying to do in his English and social studies classes in my life skills class. So I'm very excited about this new position. I met the kids last week. They've had 5 teachers for the first quarter, and for the 7th grade class, both their life skills teacher and their English teacher left on the same day. So there's a lot of teacher turnover at this school, and they've had to deal with a lot of different personalities. So now I'm there, and they're still trying to decide whether they can trust me or not. So. I also wanted to talk about an organization that I've become familiar with too. It's called Reclaim Our Schools. And I'll probably bring it up at another board meeting so we can talk about possibly joining this organization. It's more of a coalition, and their 5 pillars are really, I have written down, full funding and support for neighborhood-based community schools, positive discipline policies and end to zero tolerance policies, quality affordable education for early childhood through college, including for undocumented students. And this one doesn't necessarily come under our jurisdiction, but a living wage that lifts people out of poverty. So something that I'll hopefully have an opportunity to share more with you in the coming weeks or so. So that's my report.
Thank you. So I taught at Isaac District a decade ago, and it just sounds like many of the same circumstances you're walking into. So congratulations to you and to the kids.
Thanks.
I know they need committed, long-lasting educators and relationships. So I want to share a few points. I think the superintendent stole some of them, but I'm going to share them anyway. But I did want to share with the board that our efforts, although in the infancy, they're starting to take root. We've talked about our vision being creating an engaged community working together to create the schools we want. And I feel we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. We had excellent turnout at community council, and generally we have community council. I don't hear anything about it, but I got a number of folks sending me messages like, this is great, this is different, this feels great and welcoming, and I feel like I have a say. That's good. There are new folks, like new faces, new humans that have expressed interest in getting involved from our community. Some folks are parents, but others are just community members, and others are other educators within our community that want to lend a helping hand. And we know that we can't do this work on our own, so I'm really excited. And also, what's been awesome is that we've had some support from other organizations who respect us. So at the annual ASA-ASBA conference, we've been invited to partner with Playworks to share the good work that's happening on our campuses to reduce bullying and create a more productive learning environment. And we've also been invited to share best practices on new superintendent governing board alignment. That's really, really exciting. And I want you all to know that didn't happen on accident. Like, this board has worked really hard to create that. So thank you. I want to share a tiny sample of some parent input I've received in the last couple weeks. It's been 3 weeks since our last board meeting. Most parents I'm hearing are really satisfied with the communication they're receiving from their teachers and from the school, and not just like one-way communication, but they've been invited to participate in committees at the school and district, which is awesome. But I also already shared with the superintendent that doesn't feel to be uniform. There's still a number of parents that are not getting communication from schools or from teachers. So hopefully we can do better. We need to do better. As you all know, our property taxes hit, and despite the letter from the treasurer coming over, they didn't go up by 50 in our community. I'm sure it's like well distributed, but in my neighborhood, my taxes went up $494. And I know my neighbors north of me, theirs went up anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000. So not a small amount of change. It's not, and people aren't happy about that. It's definitely painful. But what's been great is, despite, I had a number of phone calls, and we all received at least one email. But people have expressed interest. They want to know what's happening. They're not necessarily happy, but I don't think they're mad at us. I've heard a lot of things, especially where the taxes increased the most in the Biltmore Prep neighborhood. I think generally our public there knows why. Obviously, the voters approved an override. We've had some other challenges that have increased this, but they're also really impressed with Biltmore and the rise of Biltmore over the last 8 years. So that's actually been really helpful. And I think that's just our key. Like, we keep working together with our community, create the schools we want, and we'll be okay. I do know that I just want to share, if you have anyone who's reaching out and they have concerns, just send them to the district, and we'll be happy to walk them through their tax bill. And last thing, we just had a couple, this is more for the audience because the board received an email on this, but it's always great to hear when we're getting more positive recognition. We know that it's more than one element that it takes to create a good school. You need an engaged community, you need strong teachers, you need an aligned board. And at Biltmore, we've done a lot of things, including a traditional track, the foreign language immersion, and also extended learning time. And we've been recognized for our efforts there to increase outcomes for kids by the National Council on Time and Learning. So that's awesome. And we were also in the news on 12 News for our partnership with the Be Kind People Project. That was really exciting. And that concludes my report. Our next agenda item is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I don't know if I need a motion. Can I remove something from it for discussion?
Yeah, so if there's an item you'd like to pull for discussion, what I would recommend is make a motion to approve the other items.
Okay. So I move that we approve consent agenda items A, B, D, E, F, and G.
Okay, so it looks like we're pulling the travel request for discussion. Is there a second for this motion?
A second.
Great, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Ms. McSheffrey, item C.
I just wanted to pull it for discussion because we have discussed it several times before. So, you know, I think that I'm going to vote yes for this. I do want to just voice my concerns, I think, about potentially sending all board members to a national conference to the East Coast. From what I understand of our policy, what we've done in the past, or what our policy states, the way I interpret it is, when budgets are tight, we should really be picking 1 to 2 representatives from the board to go to these conferences that are far away out of state. And I think even though we've passed our overrides, I think our budgets are tight. And we need to be very thoughtful of that, especially because we're getting a lot of feedback from the community. They are watching what we're doing, and you know, there are some perceptions out there that we are not necessarily, we may not be managing money well. So I want to be very thoughtful about this. And I just want to make sure that if we spend the time and money to attend these conferences, that we also spend the time and make the effort to attend more board meetings, including executive sessions and other district activities that are requested of us. Otherwise, why do it? You know, if we can't show up and spend time in our district when requested, I don't think it's money well spent, because we're not bringing it back to the district. So, and I think if we're not all doing that, it causes resentment, and it just isn't good for the board, and it's not good for the organization as a whole. Teachers see what we're doing. I know that we, again, have had teachers pay their own way to conferences. And so, you know, I don't necessarily want to continue to see that happen, but we do need to be thoughtful about how we're spending money. So.
Any further comments?
Personally, I find NSBA is very helpful. I'm not sitting there lounging by the pool, no matter where I'm at. I'll admit, in Nashville, I was about 4:45. I fell asleep in one of the conferences, but I was going from, I think took a half-hour lunch, and I was going from 8 o'clock on. Yeah, so, and, you know, my poor brain can only absorb so much at once, so you see my notes that were down this. When I do go to a conference, I do enjoy it. I enjoy not only hearing what's happening in Arizona, because we do live here and we get information from other boards and all that. It's how the same problems that we're facing, how other districts and boards face and overcome those problems in a unique way, or maybe, you know, Oregon, Washington, wherever. I do enjoy the intellectual stimulation, and I enjoy the information. Dr. Lewis had mentioned she had never seen board docs before. I had mentioned before, it came from NSBA. So we do get, if we would have waited and not gone to NSBA or not gone to that breakout session, we'd still be getting every Thursday those red folders and spending more money on our process of delivering and writing them up. Hilda would be spending more time. Time is money. Than, you know, having them emailed to us. It has helped this district at various times, and it has helped me understand the role of a board member and understand schools a lot better in the past.
I totally, yeah, I totally agree with that and understand that, and I think professional development is really important. But personally, I know I am hesitant to say, yes, I will go on that trip, because you know, if all 5 of us goes, it's a lot different than 1 person going or 2 people going. I just think we need to be careful of the perception that we're creating. That's all. And I think, you know, to send 1 or 2 people to then bring back information is a great strategy. And again, you know, if it helps our board, you know, become a better board, I'm all for us all going for this particular trip. You know, if it helps us bond and network and all scatter to different, you know, sessions so we learn the most, and that's great.
In the past, most, if not all, the board members have gone to NSBA. It's a unique experience for each. Each brings back their own perceptions, different breakdown sessions, and all that. And, you know, budget-wise, we do have money for it. And, community-wise, if a community member came up and said, well, I don't agree with Amy going to NSBA, my answer would be, would you like a person that doesn't have the training, you know, and development, professional development to represent you, or would you rather have somebody who does have the professional development and makes better decisions? That would be my answer.
Any other comments on this side?
Very well said, Donna. Very well said. And yes, I can see one person going and coming back, but at any one time, there's 5 to 6 different sessions happening. So that one person isn't going to be able to go to all the different sessions. So, so I think it's beneficial to have board members go to the sessions. I do recall our very most recent conversations about board's health evaluation that Donna brought back the valuable information from what was at Wyoming that we used, and she brought that back from NSBA too. So I do think it's a very good conference. It's a very good conference for new board members too. As a new board member, when I went, I got a lot of good information that I wasn't going to get from ASBA. So I think it's a really good conference for that. It has a lot of value. That's just my take on it. Personally, I also just got a new job, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go or not. So, but that's my take on it. Thank you.
What I'm hearing is I don't think anyone's disagreeing with the value of the conference. I think there's just a matter of being aware of perceptions. If we are spending district dollars, we should be holding ourselves to a higher degree of accountability for those dollars and make sure that we're bringing it back and using it to make a stronger board and a better operation.
Yeah, every time I've gone to a conference, I've come back and done a full report. And given when I went to New Orleans, I actually gave a lot of the notes to other board members too. And Matt told me that he thought it was very valuable. So I think we've I don't know. I think I've held up my end from going to conferences and being accountable for the information and attending board meetings and things like that. I think it's a really good thing.
We have a motion on this item.
Move the governing board approve consent agenda item C in accordance with policy BE-R.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Follow-up point of orders.
Yes, ma'am.
If board members would please contact Ms. Juarez to inform them of their particular interest, then we'll move forward as some of the logistics are time sensitive.
Great. Thank you. Timeline, Hilda?
October 21st is when I do the election.
Okay.
And I'll send you guys
Thank you. Great. Okay, our next agenda item is under personnel, the approval of a job description for effective schools coach. Dr. Lewis.
I would like to ask Dr. Lugo and Dr. Peterson to orient us to this request.
Good evening, Mr. President, Governing Board, and Dr. Lewis. We are here this evening requesting approval for a effective schools coach. The intent of that job description is to accelerate the growth of our schools and by developing the leaders in the districts that serve those schools. We have 5 principals under 5 years of experience and 2 schools that are in focus status. And with the loss of the Ellis partnership and the coaching and mentoring that went on with them, that we feel that there's a need for a coach to help our leaders move forward.
So the position is, Dr. Lewis said, we'd be able to provide that additional support for our leadership team so that we can help build our leaders so that they can help build capacity within their staff, and which then should directly relate to student achievements.
Questions and comments from the board?
So I have a question. So this position will be helping primarily the 5 principals.
At this time, there are 4 principals who would probably be assigned.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been some other people say, can we please get on the list? But at this time, we found the funding. Yeah, we found the funding for a .5 position, and at that point, I think that's our capacity.
Oh, so this position's not a full-time
It's 0.5.
with benefits?
Yes. Well, so it's what, 25 hours?
25 hours, under the 30 hours.
Under the 30 hours, so no benefits.
Great. Seeing no other questions, is there a motion?
I move that we approve agenda item. Um, 8A. No,
You mind if I read that out for the board?
I don't mind.
Okay, and that moves the governing board approve the job description for effective schools coach effective immediately. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is under business and plant. First, we have presentation and approval of the annual financial report. Dr. Lewis?
Mr. Mann, will you introduce Ms. Elliott?
It's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Kathy Elliott, who's been our interim finance director. She has been with us and we have benefited from her capabilities as a forensic analyst. So we're going to see some of that information that she's uncovered and also put forward into putting together both the annual financial report and subsequent. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and Mr. Board.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Mr. President, Dr. Lewis, members of the board, great community. For all of you on video who are only seeing my back, this is for you.
She's not fired.
I quit already.
It's not a district video, it's CBA video, right?
Whatever. Fire me. I'd first like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Lewis and the board for allowing me to participate in this wonderful district. I've had a fabulous experience here. Some of my staff is here, and they are awesome. I've had a lot of fun and hope I've been able to contribute in a positive way, if not in an entertaining way anyway. So. Per statute, the district is required to,
Sorry, I was slow.
I'm good.
I know you're good.
The district's required to submit the annual financial report for the prior fiscal year by October 15th of every year. So prior to your approval of the financial report, it's really just historical information that you're giving its blessing to. But I just wanted to present to you a summarization of what the expenditures for the prior year were and provide a few pictures for you. And then if you have any questions, you can ask some questions at the end. Okay. This is making me look bad. There we go. The first slide just presents expenditures out of the M&O fund. And this is by function. Functions are basically descriptors of departments. Classroom instruction is obviously pretty self-explanatory. Student support includes all of those positions that are nurses, health aides, speech therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists, student attendance clerks. Instructional support includes curriculum and library. General administration is basically the board and the superintendent. School administration is superintendents and their assistants. Central services is the business office, technology, warehouse, human resources. Physical plans has everything to do with facilities and maintenance. Transportation is self-explanatory. Other, this portion of it is essentially the K-3 reading portion that's been, districts have had that add-on in your Group B weights for the last 3 years. So we're required to track that budget and expenditure separately.
Excuse me.
Yes.
The state is funding only half-day kindergarten.
Correct.
Funding the other half. Does that come under classroom instruction?
90%. Yes. Our total expenditures for the year were $32,326. $326,842. If you have questions as we go along, please feel free to stop me.
And the 32 million is of M&O only,
Right.
not federals.
Right. I'm a visual person, so I like to show pictures. So I just wanted to graphically illustrate here how M&O expenditures were spent. You can see the majority of the expenditures in the district are in instruction. So I think ever since Janet Napolitano was governor, and she wanted us to get 65% of our expenditures in the classroom, and we've been trying to meet that goal for the last 15 years, I think. Yes.
I remember learning recently that the support services and the student support services for instruction were in new categories or recategorizing so that they might even begin to be seen as instructional dollars. Is that accurate?
When you see the report that comes out like in January or February each year of the state superintendent's dollars spent in the classroom, I believe last year they started including those dollars. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
By program, these are the same expenditures, only categorized differently: regular education, special education, and transportation. So you can see how the district spends maintenance and operations funds by program. And again, a little visual on that. You can see the majority of the funds spent M&O are on regular education. And by object is basically what are we spending them for. As you can see, there's about 85%, 86% of the district's maintenance and operations budget is spent in salaries and benefits. Most districts average 80 to 85% of their budget on salaries and benefits. This last year, our district's expenditures in this area were a little bit more than normal because we had some pretty high-level positions retire and had rather large leave payouts. So that would be included in that as well.
And Ms. Elliott, what are purchase services?
Purchase services would be auditors, attorney's fees, anytime the district hires an outside consultant, basically anyone who's considered a professional, doctor, lawyer, accountant, those kinds of things. A lot of times if the district hires an outside firm to provide professional development, that's coded there as well.
Is that included in when we contact lawyers about policy and stuff like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In our board lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Again, pictorially, you can see that the majority of the budget M&O is spent on salaries. I included a little slide on classroom site fund, and I've included all three buckets. The teacher compensation is Fund 11, performance is Fund 12, and then the menu portion is Fund 13. The menu can be spent on teacher compensation, instructional improvement, dropout prevention, AIDS intervention, which we don't have AIDS anymore. So this is all three funds all together, the total amount that the district spent on salaries and benefits. And that was the entire amount of those monies that were spent were all for salaries and benefits. For our capital outlay, we spent a little more than 1.5 million in unrestricted. Adjacent ways are monies that the district uses to provide ingress and egress to a site, sidewalks, that kind of stuff. And then bond proceeds. The majority of this money was used to build the new Monte Vista, and the other portion of it was for the Bailey Wing at Mackin School. Our bonds, we initially had a $44 million bond approval back in 2009. Initially, the district issued $22 million. The second $22 million was issued in February of 2014. All of those monies basically have been about spent. I'll give you a little cash reconciliation following that. We have a principal and interest payment that's due July 1st of every year, another interest payment that's due in January, and as of, I didn't change the date. It should be 15, sorry. June 30th, the first and the second date should be June 30th, 2015. My bad. That's the outstanding bond indebtedness for the district. And then this is just a copy of the amortization schedule and shows you when we initially did the bond issuance, and that'll be paid off in July of 2022. For our federal and state grant expenditures, the district does have quite a bit of federal funding available. I think the only state grant we get is we get a school safety grant, which is pretty substantial, about $600,000, and I forget what the other one is. But $8.7 million, that's pretty good. Other funds where we had significant expenditures were food service, our indirect cost fund. On a lot of our federal grants, the district is allowed to charge an indirect expense to those projects, and they're transferred to the indirect cost fund, where we can then spend those monies on what it costs to administer those programs. Most of the monies that are spent out of there are typically for salaries and benefits of those people that are involved in administering our federal and state projects. Instructional improvement is our Fund 20, which a portion of each teacher's salary is paid from instructional improvement. Extracurricular tax credits, this is the tax credit donations that come into the district every year by the end of December. We didn't spend as much as we took in, so that's good news. Gifts and donations, student activities, and Civic Center is where we record the revenues for the use of our facilities. We rent out facilities, baseball field, football field, softball field, those kinds of things. Yeah.
The tax credits.
Yes.
Would it be possible to gain a board bulletin or something like that and give us a breakdown of which schools get how much? Tax credits.
I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know if it's been, I'm sure that it's been tracked by school, and I'm sure that Dina Dumoulin has a breakdown on where those funds are budgeted. I
just was wondering which ones, like, who gets the most and who gets the least.
Right.
Type of thing.
Sure.
I'm not, I know probably junior ambassadors gets a whole lot, because you do a lot with them, but I was just wondering which schools are hurting.
And if you could send that request to Ms. Grassi, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer that question for you, since I won't be here anymore after tonight. This is my first and last board presentation.
A little too quickly there, Ms. Elliott. We may need to ask several more questions.
And that's fine. I know Dr. Lewis. I understand.
Can you all answer two questions?
Yes, absolutely. I know Dr. Lewis has a wager on the length of this meeting, so I'm trying to drag it out as long as possible. I did a calculation. I know last year Scott Walmer presented expenditures per student. And as a board member, I know you're asked a lot and you see a lot of information about how Arizona's last in spending, and we're always interested to know how we're doing as a district and what we're spending on our students. So the information that I used was our 100th day average daily membership from fiscal 15, and as a ratio to our total expenditures in M&O, capital, classroom site fund, instructional improvement, and whatever, to come up with the majority of our funds, how much per student we're spending. So we're spending almost $7,500 per student, which isn't terrible. There are districts that are spending a lot less. So I say we're doing above average. If you have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Or happy to send them to Ms. Grassi.
All right, I'd be happy to send them to Ms. Grassi.
I do have a question. When you say 7,500 per student, are you taking all the students across the board and making an average? Because you do have special needs students
I'm
that.
taking the district's 100th day average daily membership. So if
So that includes special needs students?
yes. If you were to look at the report from ADE that shows the district's 100th day average daily membership, yes, all those will be included.
Okay, but not necessarily your spending. So if a special needs student needs therapists and all that kind of stuff,
I'm just saying this is an average.
It's an average.
This is
Okay.
an average. Some students that don't need services are obviously getting a lot less. Other students that
Okay.
need high-end services are getting significantly more.
Okay, it's an average, okay, I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations?
Recommendation. Did we publish this? Where did we publish this?
This is sent, where do we publish?
There's a link on the district's website that you can go to, and once you click on the link, it takes you to the Arizona Department of Education website where you can pull up Creighton District and it'll show you the annual financial report for the year.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. Motion?
The governing board approved the annual financial report for fiscal year 2014 to 2015.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Jeannie first. Is there any further comments? Great, moved and seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Our next agenda item is the update on the use of bond and override proceeds during the 2014-15 school year.
Mr. Mann?
Would like to please?
I just want you to get up.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm not certain that I want to represent Mrs. Kathy Elliott after the prior performance, but I'm going to be brave and I'm going to introduce Mrs. Kathy Elliott to talk to you about bond proceeds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann, for your bravery. I commend you. Mr. President, Dr. Lewis, members of the board, people in the audience. Pursuant to 15-491, the district is required to present every year a report on how we've used our bond proceeds. So this is just a recap. This presentation was given to you last year in the exact same format. I just changed the numbers, so it should look very familiar. And I changed the color. It looked pretty. Again, as I stated earlier, the district initially authorized a $44 million bond in November 2009. We're required to spend the money over 6 years and spend 85% of it in the first 3 years. I've listed by school how these monies were spent for fiscal 15. Please stop me at any time.
I have a question for
Yes.
you. The pamphlet that you're referring to, where is that?
That was the pamphlet that was mailed to the voters back in 2009 that stated how how much the district was asking to be authorized and how the monies were going to be spent. Okay? I'm not going to read to you what everything was spent on at each school. I just provided a summary information on the items that were purchased and the total by each school. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask and hopefully I can answer them. Most of the items were for security upgrades, roofing. We did have a few HVAC systems. Mackin, you can see the Bailey wing was $1.5 million and a significant amount for security upgrades. Pretty much at all sites, there were significant security upgrades. And I'm not sure what all that entailed. I don't know if it was doors or cameras or alarms.
I know I've noticed just that all the schools visiting them, it's been the front desk, front office, glass and entry.
That's something we approved last year.
Yeah, this is just a public presentation of.
Yeah.
Monte Vista wasn't officially finished at June 30th. I don't think we had a COA by then. Certificate of occupancy. I don't think we had that by then, but construction in progress at that time was a little over $16 million. I think our total for that was a little over $17 million. District-wide, again, the majority of it was security upgrades. Other costs were project management, paying salaries and benefits for someone to manage all the construction projects we had going on in the district last year. And then this is just a cash reconciliation of what we originally started with and year-by-year expenditures and the additional bond issuance in February of 2014 and our cash balance at June 30th, 2015. And our budget per the voter pamphlet that went out in 2009 and how we've actually spent the money and the monies that are remaining. The exception of $4.4 million, when you do a bond issuance, you're allowed 10% as contingent that you can use on projects that are not necessarily outlined in the bond pamphlet. And I'd like to move on to the use of maintenance and operations override proceeds. Again, this is required to be reported to the board every year pursuant to 15481. And it's a voter approved. Last year, the district was under 10% of the district's revenue control limit. Basically, the revenue control limit is dollars times students plus bus miles times dollars. That's essentially the formula. It's 7 years in duration, 5 years that are fully funded at the 10%, and then it decreases by a third each year. Last year, the district was fortunate to pass a 15% M&O override, which is 50% more than we had. So I know some of the questions that the taxpayers had when they were talking to me about their tax bill was, I expected my tax bill to go up 15%. And I said, well, our override went up by 50%, from 10 to 15. So your taxes just for the M&O portion went up by 50%. So that helped them understand a little bit better. It didn't ease their pain, but it helped them to understand. This year, fiscal 16, is the first year of the district's 15% maintenance and operations override, and we will have that 15% for the next 5 years. Then it decreases to 10% and then 5. If we have a subsequent override election that passes prior to the reduction of the override, that will supersede any previous override amount. I just provided information here for the last 2 years and what we have this year and what dollars the override provides to this district. And between last year and this year, it's about $1.5 million additional funds. Subject to adjustment means our revenue control limit can fluctuate based on our average daily membership. So if we adopt our budget at a rate of $4.4 million, and we have some kind of an adjustment due to a recalculation in attendance or some other adjustment that we have to make to our M&O budget, that number can go down. If we have increases to our budget because of attendance adjustment, it cannot go up. Once our tax rate is set, we cannot make that number go up. Typically, I've always taken the position that I'm going to adopt my budget a little bit higher so that I can capture all of those override dollars. So that when we see a revised budget, it may come down a little bit, but I'd rather it go down a little bit than when I could have had it go up and I can't, because I've said this is what our budget's going to be. Just a little summary of what our actual expenditures were. The descriptions here were the language that was in the voter pamphlet that went out about this time last year that said how much it meant to the district dollar-wise in additional budget and how the district was going to spend that money. And you can see what we actually spent the money on, and then for fiscal 16, how we budgeted those funds. And that's all I have for now. Questions?
Great job, Ms. Elliott. Thank you.
Thank you.
The one thing I think that I might be curious for some folks is none of these fundings relate to the current year shifts that are coming. Is that right? This is all overrides and
Yes.
then the AFR.
You're talking about current year funding.
Current year funding.
It's unrelated.
So we can't talk about it here and now.
Totally separate topic.
Okay.
And I have a question, and it might be more related to the last presentation, but so we need to sell bonds now to get money back from the bond that we passed or that we've spent?
We authorized bonds in 2009, and we sold in two different phases. We did a $22 million sale in 2011, and we did another $22 million sale in 2014.
Okay. So we're finished then. So
We just gotta make a payment, baby. We got the cover,
Okay.
we gotta make a
okay.
payment.
And we qualify for another bond, is my understanding?
I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay. But if we were to do that, we'd have to sell bonds again.
You'd have to go to the voters again.
First, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Great.
Anything else?
Thank you for your presentation and service.
Thank you.
Mr. Mann, is this the opportunity for you to introduce who will be before us the next time?
Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Lewis, it's my pleasure to thank Kathy Elliott for her service to us over the last 74 days. She's done an exceptional job, but I'm also very excited to have the opportunity to introduce Sharon Grassi, who will be our new Director of Finance. And she's already been kind of transitioning her way on board over the last couple of weeks, is shifting to a full-time role with us as we roll into next week. And she comes to us with a wealth of experience in a variety of areas of school finance, with backgrounds at a number of districts, most recently at the Sanders District in Northeastern Arizona. And so it's with my great pleasure that I would like to introduce Mrs. Sharon Grassi.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here, and I would like to say that I appreciate everything that's going on in Creighton, and hopefully we can have a great team and just keep pushing along.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
So glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right.
The new Scott. You'll be called the new Scott for a while. How it goes.
Okay, I've got to call Scott. I got to bug him.
Our next agenda item is under generals, the discussion and consideration regarding membership in the Arizona School Boards Association Black Caucus. And I think I'll turn it over to Annette.
Okay. Yes, I currently belong to the ASBA Black Caucus. I joined last year, and I've been going to their meetings for at least about 2 years. I joined, I think, around the end of last year. They have some really nice programs that they like to introduce in school districts, and one of which I introduced last spring to the Creighton School District. It was a reading contest that they had that I sent over to Dr. Boyle, who shared it with the schools. So I didn't hear anything after that about whether some kids in the schools participated, but there was some cool prizes for kids who participated in this reading contest. And that's one of the many things they offer. I was about to join again as an individual board member and pay my own money to join, but it was suggested that perhaps we put it to the board and have the whole board decide if we all like to be members of the Black Caucus. We are currently members of the Hispanic Caucus, or Latino, I'm not sure.
Hispanic Native American.
Hispanic Native Americans. So this would include all peoples of color, and I think it's a good idea. It's only, I think, $100 for all of us, so for the year. That's all. Any questions?
So just curious, like, what are the benefits for joining? Like, do you only go to the meetings if you're a member? Do we find out about the scholarships if we're not a member?
You can go to the meetings if you're not a member, you just can't vote. So I was going to the meetings prior to becoming a member, but I wasn't voting prior to that. So it's the same as the benefits that we would have from the Hispanic Caucus.
Which I don't really know that much about, to be honest. Okay.
I've gone to those meetings too. So.
Could you share what are some of the votes that you know, that come up?
Well, it's a newly forming organization, and so the votes that I've been privy to and part of have been pretty much policy votes on wording of the organization. So that's pretty much things like bylaw development and things like that. I was privy also to the reading contest vote, and last year they had another contest. I'm blinking on what it was. It was before I was a member. So there's going to be a new election soon, and the current president, who doesn't live in Phoenix, she lives way I think in the West Valley. She's going to be stepping down, and Chanel Poe from Balt School District, who some of you know, will be running for president of that position. So Chanel's a friend of mine. I know her just from school board, and just a very powerful, incredible person. She moves a lot with, does a lot with Balt School District. So either way, I'll be joining again. So it's newly forming, and they will be, bringing up, as members, we can go to the meetings, we can suggest things. It's not a real huge organization, but it's worth it.
Any other questions or comments for Annette on this agenda item?
What's the individual membership fee?
I believe it's $25 for individuals, and then the whole board for $100. So we save a little bit.
Do you know how often they meet?
I think it's about 4 times a year. It's usually at the ASBA events. It's about 4 times. That could change once Chanel, because she's in Phoenix, so she's local, so that could change. I think they were meeting not so much because the previous president lived so far away, and it was only when she came into town. I think it's about 50 miles away from Phoenix.
Your motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve membership into the ASBA Black Caucus for the board.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Next item, future agenda items.
So I want to talk more about the Reclaim Our Schools thing, so I'll get into that, and then I want to learn more about our policy, and this could be in a board bulletin, but just our policy regarding partnerships with nonprofits and philanthropic organizations.
Excellent.
And you wanted to remove an item?
Oh, yes, I'd like to remove an item, the data for travel.
Great, thank you. All right, I move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 7:05 p.m.